Obedience. Behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today. And the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way which I command you today, to go after other gods, which you have not known. Deuteronomy 11, 26 to 28. So Samuel said, has the Lord as great a delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, to heed than the fat of rams. 1 Samuel 15, 22. Oh, that you had heeded my commandments. Then your peace would have been like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Isaiah 48, 18. But this is what I command them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. Walk in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. Jeremiah 7:23. If you love me, keep my commandments. He who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. John 14, 15 to 21. That's the words of Jesus. But Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. Acts 5:29. When the religious people were telling them to do something different to what God had commanded them. They didn't want them to speak about Jesus Christ. But they said, we'd rather obey God than you. That must be true for many people in certain countries. What an example. Now by this we know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He who says, I know him, and does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his word, surely the love of God is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought also to walk just as he walked. 1 John 2, 3 to 6. So if you walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days. 1 Kings 3:14. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. Your spirit is good. Lead me in the land of uprightness. Psalm 143, verse 10. And Moses called all Israel and said to them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to observe them. Therefore you shall be careful to do as the Lord your God has commanded you, and you shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. Deuteronomy 5, verse 1, 32 and 33. Bondservants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart, fearing God. And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to man, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. Colossians 3:22-24. Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man, for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme, or to governors as to those who are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honour all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honour the king. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the harsh. For this is commendable, if because of conscience towards God, one endures grief, suffering wrongfully. For what credit is it if, when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take it patiently, this is commendable before God. 1 Peter 2:13-20. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Ephesians 6:1. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Bondservants, obey in all things your masters, according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart, fearing God. And whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord, and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. For you serve the Lord Christ. Colossians 3:20-24.